Kunja Vihari Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivijagacharya Asta Saraswati His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Different microphone. It's yours. You're very fortunate because he's very attached to this other microphone. Okay. Do you two boys know who is Lord Brahma? Yes? Your younger brother, does he know? Who is Lord Brahma? Lord Brahma. Your mother's coaching you. Who is he? Four heads. He sure does. So, Lord Brahma, you know the pastime. After creating the universe, that's what he does. He builds the universe. Once each day of his life, he comes to this earth planet when Krishna is performing his pastimes in Vrindavan, and he pays him a visit to pay his respects. And when he came to pay his respects one time, Krishna was in the middle of killing the Aghasura demon, the big long serpent. Aghasura, your brother knows. So Aghasura. Krishna killed him. And then the cowherd boys went to have lunch, and Brahma went, wow, I've got mystic powers. I wonder what's the limit of Krishna's mystic powers. What's the limit of Krishna's mystic powers? What's the answer?
Wait. So
It's too many. So many. No limit to Krishna's, but Brahma wanted to see, so he got to see. He stole the calves and cowherd boys, put them in a cave, came back. There's the calves and cowherd boys. What? He looked back in the cave. They're in the cave. And then Krishna showed not just cowherd boys and calves, but Narayan forms as many as there are calves and cowherd boys. There's a lot of calves and cowherd boys. And all of the potencies and the universes, and he was overwhelmed. And then Krishna withdrew all of them because everything is within Krishna, and Brahma offered prayers. So we're hearing the prayers of Brahma. Canto 10, Chapter 14, Prayers of Brahma. And we got as far as verse number 6. So the first 5 verses, just to keep it really simple, Brahma speaks about the form of Krishna that he sees. He's seeing Krishna's original form before him, and he knows it's Krishna's original form. He describes the features of his form. He describes the yogurt rice in his left hand, because he eats with his right hand, and says, I wish to attain you. And then he describes not just the form, but the characteristics and qualities, some of them, of Krishna. And then he says this really important verse, the way to attain him. And he describes the bhakti process, where one throws far away, udapasya, jnane prayasa udapasya, throw far away the speculative knowledge method, and namanta eva, offer obeisances to Krishna, specifically in the form of topics about Krishna, which is what we're doing, right? Topics about Krishna. Dedicate one's life, body, speech, mind, everything dedicated to the topics of Krishna while carrying out one's duties of life. So yours are studying, and his is going to the office, or working from home during COVID, and your mom is whatever hers, household duties and teaching you guys, and the kitchen department. Generally, that's housewife's area. And we all have our duties, and they may change in course of time, but something doesn't change as our dedication to the topics of Krishna. And by that method, one can conquer he who cannot be conquered. The name for Krishna that it says he cannot be conquered is what? Starts with an A. Second letter is a J. Ajita. Ajita can't be conquered. But he who can't be conquered can be conquered by the bhakti process, or by, like Mother Yasoda, bound Krishna, although he couldn't be bound. He couldn't be bound and couldn't be bound and couldn't be bound, and then she was able to bind him. It was with not the rope, it was with her love. So that's how Krishna can be conquered or bound or submissive to his devotee through devotion. That was text 3. Then 4 and 5 speak about if someone instead throws away the bhakti process and just takes up the gyan process, they can't even know who they are. Self-realization is far away, and all they get is hard labor, klesha, suffering, misery. Gives the example of, we don't do this in the West, but in India it's done. In agricultural countries, they thrash the grain. They cut the stalk, and then they thrash the grain, and the wheat comes out, or the rice comes out. But if you just have the chaff, where the wheat or the rice or the grain has already been removed, and you do this, you get nothing. You get sore hands. That's the next verse. Then we hear about there is some benefit. But there is some benefit that can be derived from the speculative method or the gyan process, but it must be joined with bhakti. And it's limited what you can realize. The best that one can realize is the impersonal feature. It's really difficult. Bhagavad Gita chapter 12 verse 5 is really difficult. Klesha means suffering, misery. It's really painful. But you really get to the top of the mountain and you can realize impersonal Brahman. So that's the verse that we're discussing. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Here's the translation of text 6. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal supreme, and it gives the method, by cultivating direct perception of the capital S self, supersoul, within the heart. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions. I mean, not just you're not the body, that's a material distinction. But there can be other material distinctions, like I'm sitting in a chair instead of sitting on the ceiling. And you're just, how do you get to that place where you don't have any material distinctions? No conception of a material distinction. Walk into the wall. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get it. How you can have no conception of material distinctions. You put food in your mouth. Suppose you make no distinction. Where are you going to put the food? Anyway, that's a qualification. No conception of material distinctions, and without attachment to material sense objects. Not attached to Krishna and seeing those objects in relation to Krishna and using them in his service. Just no attachment for material sense objects. So your mind is empty and your senses are empty. You're an airhead, I guess, or something. Excuse me. But that's a precondition for, only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. Okay, here's Sanatana Goswami's commentary. How can the glories of your bhakti and the glories of you be described? Brahma speaking. You are endowed with many qualities. The glory of even one of your qualities cannot be understood in truth. Or, though bhakti is glorified, a person engaged in jnana cannot understand you, who are endowed with an ocean of auspicious qualities. Perhaps some person can understand the glory of just one quality, and that just one quality is his impersonal feature. The glory, or mahi, because there's the word that's in the verse is mahima. Mahima. The glory, mahi, of your quality of mercy, ma gunasya, can be understood. One quality, mercy. Or the glory of your quality as Radha can be understood. Merciful Radha. Though Krishna was still a child, he was 5 years old when this happened, this can be stated in relation to his eternal pastimes. So he's only 5, but Radha is his mercy, and she takes her place by his side when he's a little older, his eternal pastimes with Radha. Or your glory, mahi, can be especially understood by the quality of mercy. So different ways of speaking about this one quality of mercy. The method is given. What's that? The quality of mercy can be understood by the most merciful Lord, svanubhavat, by the abundance of mercy in him, which is complete, avikriyat. The symptom of his mercy can be characterized as the exclusive object of knowledge. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. You know that verse? Okay. Good for you. It's very focused attention on one thing. Eka. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Ekaiha kurunandana. Focused attention on the personality of Godhead. It's his mercy for one to get to that position where he is the object of perfect knowledge. Exclusive object of perfect knowledge. And that's of the same nature as the self, or Atma. We're not Paramatma, but this of the same nature. Being without form. This is the impersonal feature. Minus bhakti, one can't understand the personal feature. But with Gyan tinged with bhakti, or bhakti tinged with Gyan, one can realize at best, one can realize this impersonal feature, which is without form. His real form is ultimately indefinable. It is not otherwise. It cannot be understood except through the Lord's mercy The Lord's form as Brahman is indicated. When does his mercy manifest? One cannot say, because it is self-manifesting. And when does the sun shine? Well, when does it not shine? The sun shines. When is Krishna merciful? When is Krishna not merciful? But it's not caused by anything, nor checked by anything. Clouds can obscure our sight of the sun, just like right now it's night. But the sun is still shining somewhere. If we can't see the sun shining, doesn't mean the sun stops shining. And it starts shining when you can see it again. No. Krishna is merciful because he's always merciful. It's from himself. There's no cause behind it. It's just who he is. It's self-manifesting. Why can one not realize just the greatest of one quality, the mercy of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi? The reason is given, because the greatness is unlimited. Yeah. Everything that's of the spiritual dimension is unlimited. Krishna's, we went through this extensively within the month of Kartik. Krishna's form is simultaneously unlimited and small. The Damodar Leela form, very small. Simultaneously. Well, wait a minute. It's either this or this. But how's it simultaneously? Because within Krishna is everything, so he's simultaneously everything. So how can one understand his mercy or any one of his qualities, like the mercy of Lakshmi? Why can one not realize the extent of Krishna's mercy? Because it's unlimited. The quality has the form of Vishnu. The quality and possessor of the quality are non-different. It is not otherwise. It's not a lie. Jamunacharya says, Upari upari abja bhuvo purushan. Or, desiring to measure one of your transcendental qualities, the words of the Vedas again and again multiply by 100 the qualities of Brahma. Jamunacharya. Interesting commentary. Here's Jiva Goswami, and this is the conclusion of commentary in text 6, and we'll go on to 7. Jiva Goswami writes, "Oh, great Lord, the greatness of one among your qualities may be realized by persons with pure hearts as one Atma or Brahman. According to his realization, by exclusive cultivation, and not beyond that, since the Lord is actually beyond perception." It's like high philosophy, isn't it? Though a person may develop some realization, it will be impersonal knowledge and not knowledge of your personal qualities. So in other words, in short, bhakti alone can reach Krishna. Can you reach the outer regions of Krishna, that is the light emanating from Krishna? Yes. It's not easy. It's very severe. It's very difficult, just like Bhagavad Gita. We've been discussing 12.5 Bhagavad Gita. Do you know that verse? Klesho tikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. You know that one? Okay. So that's speaking of avyakta asakti. Being asakti means being attached. Being attached to avyakta, the unmanifest, the impersonal feature. Gosh, how are you going to be attached to nothing, to nothing? Well, what is it? Well, it's not this. It's not that. It's, okay. Not this, it's not that. What is it? Well, it's not this, it's not that. Okay, but what is it? Well, it's not this, it's not that. It's Brahman. Undifferentiated, all-pervasive. Get your arms around that one. Not easy. But there are people who are attached to that. And it's difficult. So they can get to the perimeter, the boundary of understanding something about Krishna, but that's the limit. That's as far as they can go. And to get there is really difficult. And the qualities of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, the nature of Krishna, the lovingness of Krishna, no, they have no access. Text 7. Let's hear what Brahma has to say. It's an interesting one. In time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count the atoms of the earth, or the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, which gives us a clue about light. Right? You know that's what science says. It's a wave, or is it a particle? And they have tests, experiments that you can say it's a wave, it's a particle. Well, here it is in the Bhagavatam. It's a particle. At least that's BBT translation. They may, perhaps even the shining molecules of radiating from the sun. So radiation sounds like a wave. But particles can radiate. Waves can be particles. Anyway. Counting the molecules radiating from the sun, stars, and other luminaries, but among these learned men who can count all those things, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities? Just like your younger brother there, he got the answer right away. There's no limit. Brahma wanted to know what's the limit? No limit. Everything that's limited, supposing there's things that limit it, how many molecular parts in the radiating from the sun, stars, and other luminaries. Supposing someone can count that, that's finite. Like a lot, but it's got a limit. But there's no limit. He wanted to know that Krishna's given him the realization. He wanted to know what's the limit. He's giving you the answer. No limit. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that Lord Krishna is Gunaatma. You know what guna means? Guna, mode. Like 3 gunas, modes of nature. Gunaatma, or quality. And so the soul of all superior qualities. That's Sanatana Goswami's explanation of Gunaatma, the soul of all superior qualities. That's Lord Krishna. He's the soul of all superior qualities because he gives them life. For example, one may discuss in an abstract way about such qualities as generosity, intelligence, and mercy. but they come to life only when a living person exhibits them. They're a good example. Thus, Lord Krishna is Gunaatma. Why? Because he descends to the material world and reestablishes religious principles by exhibiting all godly qualities himself and inspiring them in others. A living entity who develops the transcendental qualities found in the Lord receives immeasurable benefit and eventually goes with the Lord back to his own abode, where all living beings are liberated and fully endowed with the transcendental nature. Second paragraph. Srila Sanatana Goswami further explains that the Lord manifests a specific spiritual quality for the benefit of each living entity. Since there are innumerable living entities within the confines of the material creation, the Lord manifests infinite qualities. Thus, every conditioned soul can appreciate the Supreme Lord in a particular way. Paragraph. The example is given here that even if the most learned scholars could someday count the particles of earth, snow, and light, they would still fail to understand the qualities of the Lord. In this example, earth, snow, and light are progressively more subtle. Earth, snow, and light, progressively more subtle. Thus, it is to be understood that there is an increasing difficulty in counting their virtually infinite particles. New paragraph. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, great personalities like Lord Sankarshana actually have counted the number of atoms on the earth and even the molecules in the entire universe. Yet, even such a personality as Sankarshana, who has been continuously chanting the glories of the Lord since time immemorial, has not even approached a final count of those glories, and he never will. Doesn't say that, but I said that. Lord Krishna exhibits most astonishing qualities during his childhood pastimes in Vrindavan, where he steals butter from the cowherd ladies, dances with his girlfriends, and plays with his cowherd boyfriends as their most dear companion. Although appearing like ordinary human activities, such sublime preposition. Although appearing like ordinary human activities. Grammar's wrong. Such sublime pastimes embodied Lord Krishna's immeasurable and innumerable beautiful transcendental qualities, which are the life and soul of the pure devotees. So let's try to summarize what's being expressed here, because this is as far as we're going to go. This verse is speaking about counting, and the glories of Krishna can't be counted. First of all, they can't even be perceived, but how you can count something you can't perceive? But even if they could perceive them, they can't count them. Now let's go back to the other one. You can't perceive Krishna's spiritual form and understand it. Oh, he also said, not only how can I don't understand your form, how is it possible I can understand the happiness you're experiencing? Now, personalities like Brahma, they not only know what's going on inside themselves, they also know what's going on inside other people. Know the thoughts and feelings and things. They have that capacity, but they can't understand. He can't understand what Krishna's experiencing. He's just like, he's out of sight. It's beyond comprehension. One can understand about Krishna to the degree that Krishna reveals himself. Like this question in this whole section of Krishna's childhood pastimes, and outside of Vrindavan also. People that are just really bad people, they could see Krishna too. Materialists could see Krishna. How they can see Krishna? And the answer is, he gives them the mercy to see him. And to understand what they're seeing, that's another thing too. Muchukunda. Did you know how Muchukunda became a devotee? You know who he is, right? Muchukunda. He was in a cave. Kalyavana was chasing Krishna. Krishna went in the cave. Kalyavana thought he was asleep. He kicked him. Muchukunda. So Muchukunda was a devotee of Krishna. How he became a devotee of Krishna was, he's a member of the royal family, and on a special occasion, the same person who did Krishna's name-giving ceremony did his horoscope. Who is the person who did Krishna's name-giving ceremony? Starts with a G. The last name is Muni. Gargamuni. Remember? Yes? Gargamuni. Gargamuni did Krishna's name. So he's like a super astrologer. So he did the horoscope for Muchukunda one time. He said, oh, you're going to see Krishna one day. And here's what Krishna's like, and he would describe Krishna, because he knows. So just hearing about Krishna, he became his devotee, knowing that one day he would see Krishna. But he didn't meet Krishna. He just, like you and me, we haven't met Krishna. We have some idea from hearing, but we're not so elevated like Muchukunda. He was dedicated to Krishna. And when he saw Krishna in the cave, he wanted to know, who are you? And Krishna said who he was. He said, oh, you're the one I'm devoted to. He was angry because he just got kicked. You know why he was asleep, because the demigods had him fighting some big battle in the heavenly planets for a long time, no sleep. They said, take whatever benediction you like. Have nobody wake me up. And if they do come to wake me up, they'll burn to ashes. So don't come and wake me up for some more fighting, please. He was really tired. So when he got woken up, he was grumpy. And when he saw Krishna, because he was angry like that, he couldn't recognize. And then when Krishna informed him who he was, and offered prayers. So even he was Krishna's devotee, he couldn't understand Krishna until Krishna gave his mercy to understand that he's Krishna. What to speak of Kalyavana and other bad people. They could also see Krishna. Only possible by Krishna's mercy to see him, whether you're good or bad. And then after Krishna's manifest pastimes, bad people don't see Krishna, because his pastimes become withdrawn. He becomes avyakta, or unmanifest pastimes. But Brahma came at the right time. It's during that day of Brahma when Krishna appears. So he came, saw Krishna, and then he started saying, I don't understand you. Now, at least he understands that he doesn't understand him. He didn't go kicking him or anything. He didn't go, Vadagasura was trying to kill him and things like that. Brahma's a devotee, but he's a devotee that recognizes his limits. To understand the limited cannot understand the unlimited. So, the previous verse is saying the impersonal Brahman can be understood, but it's a limited feature of the unlimited. Pretty cool, huh? Brahman is not the complete understanding of Krishna. It's a partial understanding of an aspect of Krishna. And that can be understood by the method that was described without saying it again. But it's just partial. It's just a tiny, we heard this commentary saying it's just a fraction, a small portion of the knowing potency of the living entity. And it's known at the soul level because we heard this morning. You can't, that which is beyond material qualities can't be understood by something in material quality. The mind can't go there. The senses can't go because they're material. But the soul does have the same quality as the Brahman effulgence of the Lord. So it's at the soul level one can realize Brahman. Brahman realized at the soul level. It's not the mind thing. It's not an intellect thing. You can do some meditation, that's fine. You can do some discernment with your intelligence, that's fine. But it takes Krishna's giving some mercy, this is this mercy message again, to realize at the soul level, this is what the impersonal Brahman feature is. But it takes a lot of bhakti to get to the personal feature, to realize it, not just notionally say, oh, that's nice, but to realize it, a stage of perfection. You probably know this other verse from Bhagavad Gita. Manushanam sahasreshu. You know that one? Manushanam sahasreshu kasya jatati siddhaye yatatampapi siddhanam kasyat veti mam tatvataha. Out of many sahasra, and many thousands of people, maybe you'll find one who is striving for perfection, siddhi, siddhanam. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So what's that perfection that is spoken about? It's knowing who you are. Aham Brahmasmi, or another one you probably know. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. Na sochati, na kangsati. That's a good one to know. Your mom is taking note to teach you that one. Brahmabhuta means to know who you are. To know that who you aren't and who you are. And be, not just theoretically, but experience it. And a symptom that you know it and you're experiencing it is prasanatma. Atma is the soul, and prasana means happiness. Happiness, big time happiness inside. Spiritual happiness within. That's a symptom of knowing who you are. And being, no longer identifying with the coverings. The coverings. Na sochati, na kangsati, no hankering, no lamenting. Samak sarveshu bhuteshu, seeing all living entities equally. Then devotional service begins. Really, pure devotional service begins. So what Brahma's teaching in these verses is there in Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavad Gita is the foundation. Brahma is expanding on that foundation. So it's not teaching something new or different. It's just an expanded explanation of what's already there in Bhagavad Gita. But it's the expanded understanding is nice. What he wants to draw our attention, what he is drawing our attention to, is the topics. Dedication to hearing, chanting, remembering Tana van, the body, words, and mind, absorbed in the topics of that which is beyond material form, material conception, topics of Krishna. That's the purification method. And in that purified state, then comes realization. In sequence, realization of the soul beyond the body, realization of the Supreme Person, realization of the original form of Krishna, which is what he wants. And he wants for us too. So he's giving this method. Very creative. Let's see if there's some discussion. The little one, he's artistic? Just playful. Okay. Just today, go ahead, you take the microphone. Just today I received a really beautiful painting by a girl that, grew up like your son is growing up in, a devotee family. Really beautiful painting of the gopi name of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Manju, something starts with an M. Manjari? It's in my phone. So it's written from a prayer by one of the disciples of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. One of the disciples of Gopal Bhatta Goswami was Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya wrote a prayer to that gopi. And so here's this painting, a little girl. Now she's probably a teenager by now, but a painting of this gopi holding in her hands like this Radharaman. Radharaman looks just like Radharaman. Just like Radharaman. There's in close and it's a little further away. Two different images. And it's a prayer by Srinivasacharya offering prayers to that gopi who has deep love for Radharaman. Really nice. So, maybe it starts playful, but who knows what may come from the playfulness. Maybe one day he'll be an artist. Okay, so is this microphone on?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, you're on.
Maharaj, 2 questions. What I was remembering was when you were talking about the impersonal realization and whatnot. Actually, before I came in touch with devotees, I was a lot into Mayavad philosophy. I feel fortunate somehow. I met devotees and I was able to understand the process of bhakti a little bit at least. So one thing I was thinking about is the interaction between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and I believe Sanatana Goswami on this Manushyanam Sahasresham when he explains there are many living entities.
Yes.
Towards the end, he says there are so many people who know the relationship between them and Krishna, but fortunate is the one who acts in that relationship. I feel that, yes, I have the knowledge that, yes, this is the relationship, but not necessarily acting in that relationship.
That's bhakti.
And how can one truly remember that relationship and act?
Well, you can truly remember it through bhakti, but so you cultivate bhakti, not just that. So it's the application of the knowledge in the mood of, or with the intention of restoring the relationship. Bhakti is not a mechanical process. It's not a matter of this thing and that thing and the other thing, and then bhakti happens. It's not a mechanical process. It's a practical process, but then at some point, internally, the purpose of the activities that we do, that light has to go on, and we nourish that the purpose behind the activities that we do. The activities that we do have the potency of awakening that, but it still doesn't. It's not mechanical. It's devotional. So the light has to go on, saying, I need to really cultivate the dedication to Krishna part, the application of the philosophy part, the bhakti part. That's how.
Yes, Maharaj. My second question is...
It's in the definition of bhakti by Rupa Goswami, right in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. That's right there. There's the answer to your question.
Thank you, Maharaj. In this verse, we were talking earlier, it was talking about the impersonalists, that they have to control the mind and also go beyond senses and mind. And apparently we have to do the same thing.
Yes. Came up in this morning's class.
Yes.
Now what's the difference? Is that the question?
Yes, Maharaj.
That came up in the morning class. They just have to shut it down, but we see the sense objects and see, okay, this sense object or those sense objects are meant for service to Krishna. So here we go. So we're engaging the senses and the objects of the senses. That's what bhaj means. Practical activity, senses contenting sense objects for the pleasure of Krishna. So our detachment from sense objects comes from attachment to seeing the things get offered to Krishna. Within that is detachment. The other is incomplete, and they have to learn the incomplete. But it's always incomplete, even if they can do it. So the bungee cord, they come back again. So we may also come back again because of attachment. But so bhakti is the key to that detachment from sense objects, and the mental conception is likewise. You get free from the material conception by replacing it with a spiritual conception. It's just not like a vacuum. Krishna is there in the thoughts, in the conceptions, in relation to Krishna. They don't have that. Then they have no shelter. It's like those Russian dolls you've seen. Have you seen the Russian dolls? They're made of wood, and you take the top off, and there's another doll inside that doll. You take that top off, and there's another doll inside that doll. You take that top. So what's inside? Nothing. But we have, what's inside is Krishna. You keep doing it. There. Wow, there's Krishna. So that's how we get free from the material conceptions, the distinctions, the conception of material distinction. It's connected to Krishna. So we have to do. We have the same steps controlling the mind and senses, but it's done it's done with shelter, and theirs is without shelter. It's pretty lonely, pretty boring, pretty dry. Let's go back to enjoying.
Maharaj, 2 more questions, if you don't mind. Now, given that we have taken to the process of bhakti, is there a chance that a devotee could also become an impersonalist?
Well, can a devotee slacken and go away? No, in one sense they can try, but it'll never be the same. But yes, it has happened. Just listening to Prabhupada speaking about that just this morning. But it's, whatever spiritual progress is never lost ultimately, but the souls can be covered. All souls have their innate Krishna consciousness anyways. But it can be covered and forgotten.
Yes. Last one. You said Brahma knew his limits, to what extent he could.
Yes.
So as a sadhaka, because with not so much realization, still a sadhaka bhakti, how do we put our guardrails that we do not cross our limits within our services as we do?
Well, I thought you were meaning something else by the premise. Brahma knew his limits. He knew his limits of, he didn't have the kind of love the residents of Vrindavan have, and he wished to attain it. That's what I meant by knowing his limits. You have a different idea of knowing your limits.
I thought he offended Krishna by checking in.
He knew the limits of his mystic powers. He didn't know the limits of Krishna's mystic powers. That? Well, what's your mystic powers, man?
No, Maharaj. I think
you can grow your fingernails, okay.
No, the offense he committed, meaning he probably knew Krishna was mystical.
Excuse me.
I was thinking more in the lines of to what extent he could test Krishna, because the other demons...
To what extent he could do what, Krishna?
He could test the powers of Krishna.
Test the powers of Krishna. Well, he overstepped himself, and he made offense. Now, fortunately, Krishna didn't, reprimand him. But he made an offense, and he recognized that there was an offense. He interrupted Krishna's pastimes. Not only that, he kidnapped the cowherd boys. I mean, he has to go to jail for that. He put them in the cave for a year. Gosh. But that was part of Krishna's plan, so he could be the cowherd boys with their mothers for a year. So he was, it wasn't all that bad. It was partly induced by Krishna's Yogamaya potency to do what he did. But he overstepped what was appropriate by using his mystic power to see what Krishna would do with his mystic power. So not only manifested all those Narayan forms, he manifested all the cowherd boys and calves and was cowherd boys and calves for a year. I mean, who can do that? So, whether it doesn't say whether Brahma understood that's what Krishna was up to with this pastime, but he had, back to your question, he had overstepped. He didn't know his limit. He went beyond what's appropriate, and recognized it, and said, "Although I'm an offender, you've shown me mercy." And the mercy was, you showed me your original form. And you answered my curiosity question. What's the limit? There's no limit. Not like he didn't know that, but now he directly experienced it. And saw Krishna's original form. The shelter of all the Narayans and all the energies and all the everythings. He is that shelter. And so he saw it. It's another kind of knowing. Like, the difference between knowing that food is very filling after you've had a full meal, and then another is have a full meal. Then it's a different experience. So he had directly experienced. He felt Krishna's mercy, knowing that Krishna knew that he had made an offense. I've offended you. So am I addressing your question? Not exactly.
No, I think, Maharaj, yes. My question is in my own activities that I do, right? Or different. I'll ask this question differently.
Yeah.
Say if somebody did a mistake by any chance, right? One could take responsibility for that mistake. Brahma being such an elevated person, he's the creator of this whole universe. He didn't let his false ego or anything come in the way and jeopardize his own relationship to Krishna. So an example is if I do something wrong, I may hate the people that I work with and walk away from there, right? Versus defending my own perspective. I don't know if I make sense. Brahma being such an elevated person and a person of a high position, when you compare with demigods or whatnot, he didn't feel ashamed to accept his mistake.
Okay, that's a nice. Yes, it's part of his qualification to acknowledge his mistake and make amends. So now, what does that have to do with you? When you're in a situation, you make a mistake, then what? What is I don't kind of.
How can I get inspiration from this incident that it's important to acknowledge the mistake?
Well, it's a value that we all know, first of all. But then if we're followers of disciplic succession, he's the head of our disciplic succession. And his mistake was really big time. Our mistakes are small time compared to that one. We don't kidnap the cowherd boy. In come the police. You're under arrest. Go to jail. So none of that happened. So our mistakes are small compared to his mistakes. But he's showing. So how do you take? I guess you're asking what's the takeaway for us from this pastime is we follow him. He's acknowledging, making amends, and praising the person who he offended. He's not buttering him up. He's just expressing his realizations about Krishna's nature. It's all part. I take it as it's all part of a bigger plan for Krishna to do what Krishna does. He is establishing truths about him through his pastimes, and Brahma is a speaker of truths about him for our benefit. And one of those benefits is you make a mistake, you acknowledge it. Make amends. Okay. How about you? You would like to discuss anything from this? No. Okay. Anything? She has something. He wants to wipe it down with one of those disinfecting wipes. For his husband and wife, I don't think we have to worry, but we're finding these protocols.
This is actually my own personal question, Maharaj. Sometimes which bothers me is sometimes, sometimes in the sense, many times, I kind of, think myself that I'm unable to balance my devotional and my, household. I feel that I do my regular chanting and, whatever I vowed for my Guru Maharaj. But I feel that I'm, not doing 100% in my devotional service. Like I'm taking care of my kids a lot of times and doing household things. I don't know how to put in.
I'm not really clear what you're getting at. You're looking at your husband like he knows what, because you guys talk about it all the time anyways. You feel there's imbalance? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, like
Too
how
much
to
of-
help myself to, I don't know how to put in.
You're in the outside world and you're not enough inside with bhakti? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Duties, and
Yes.
the internal cultivation of bhakti is lacking.
Yes, Maharaj.
Sounds like what he said. In his own way, but something similar. I have the knowledge, but I don't have the depth of bhakti that I understand from the knowledge that this is where it's supposed to take me. So the similar questions expressed differently, but similar questions. The answer is quite similar. I'll say the same thing in a different way. Here's a vending machine. You know what a vending machine is? Okay, you see the thing you want, you put the coins in, and you pull the lever, and down comes the thing you want. That's not bhakti. Not a vending machine. I do this and do that and do that. Now, it doesn't mean you don't do this and do that. If we follow the vidhis of sadhana bhakti, but that's not the essence. It's a good start. It'll help. It's essential to purify the coverings. But then as the coverings get purified, then comes this other, the little light goes on. There's something more to it than just following the vidhis. And then what's that something more? Which is what you're both saying. And so the purpose behind, it's Rupa Goswami's teachings from Nectar of Instruction. If you neglect the vidhis or just do them without understanding the purpose behind, then shadbhir bhakti vinashati. So pay attention to the purpose behind. Or the way that I've been saying it in real simple language is, when you put your hand in your bead bag, ask yourself your question. Ask yourself the question, what's my intention in doing this? And it can be simple. And it can be profound. But, it's not just doing, it's the consciousness behind. The intention, sankalpa. I just got a copy of Shivaram Swami's latest book. It's 1,000 pages thick. He wants your attention. He won't stop till he gets your attention. Okay. And it's sankalpa something. And so when the conversation I had with him, it was an email, it wasn't a phone. He said, I'm going to work on Varnashram Part 2, but right now I'm working on a book. He just described it as a book on sadhana. I thought, wow. But, it's all the stages of bhakti. Sankalpa is critical. It's not optional. That's, another way of answering. So the intention behind what your life is made up of, why? What's the intention? And there's different levels of it. And it gets elevated, it gets refined, and, the purpose gets clearer as you get closer to the goal. And Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is exactly that. But, we don't start with that. We start with, what we're speaking about right now. But, when you get, according to a definition of Rupa Goswami of what sadhana bhakti is it's a means that'll get you there. Raga is part of what this path of vidhi will take you to, where there's attraction. And now it's, it's the doing without necessarily the deeper bhakti experience in consistent manner or fashion. So we have to cultivate it. Or using Vaisheshika Prabhu's phrase, where attention goes, energy flows. Same. Intention, sankalpa. Where intention goes, energy flows. So what's your intention? I don't need the answer. You need the answer. Because that will then give you where you want to go. Which is in addition to the vidhis. Where are the vidhis meant to take you? What's the purpose behind? And it's a cultivation. That's what I said to your husband. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Prabhupada's words in the introduction is bhakti is a sort of cultivation. That's paraphrasing Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Bhakti, so it's a cultivation. And you start with what you just expressed, and then you cultivate, not just, not just this is what's missing, like the Russian dolls and the Russian dolls and the Russian dolls, and there's nothing inside. There's something inside. So what's inside? You going to be an artist? You have lots of coloring tools here. I'll show you before I go, I'll show you this little drawing that this young girl did just by practicing. It's really nice. Okay, how are we doing? Anything online?
There's one question from Girivaradari Prabhu. Please enlighten me. Serving and pleasing Siksha Guru is same as Diksha Guru and Krishna?
Well, yes and no. Yes, they're to be respected on the same level, but it's not identical in all respects. Otherwise, we wouldn't have different nomenclature.
This devotee wants to be anonymous.
Okay, anonymous it is.
The general question: compassion to all living beings in spite of their bad behavior. How to cultivate the quality of compassion in challenging situations?
The answer is see the soul beyond the behavior. If someone is bad or cruel or something, that's a behavior. And see beyond the behavior. So compassion is towards the soul. But if you can't see beyond the behavior, you won't see the soul. You won't feel compassion. You'll feel something else.
This is from Radhika Priya Mataji. Guru Maharaj, you read the purport of the 7th verse. It said, yet a personality like Sankarshana has not approached the final count of those glories.
Yes.
My question is, Lord Sankarshana, Balaram and Lakshmana, all of them know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme and they all want to serve him. But when Ramanujacharya came and he is an incarnation of Sankarshana, then why did he preach that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme? It is contradictory to me, and also Sri Vaishnavas give importance to Vishnu Purana rather than Srimad Bhagavatam.
She comes from a Sri Vaishnava background. Well, how the Sri Vaishnavas perceive Ramanujacharya may not be the same way as how Krishna perceives Ramanujacharya. You know, their primary scriptural reference, as you know, is Padma Purana and Vishnu Purana, and in there Narayana is supreme. So why can somebody teach anything other than Krishna is supreme? Is because they have a mission to perform on behalf of the Supreme Lord for time, place, circumstance. You know, why can anybody, how can someone from bona fide disciplic succession hold anything other than Bhagavatam is the principal pramana, Amala pramana? Because there's other, this question came up the other day, why different disciplic successions, why not just one? It's a similar question. It's not the same, but it's similar. There's variety and there's abundance, and some people like this and some people like that. So it's not, it's fulfilling the desires of living entities that have different tastes. Let the personality of Godhead be celebrated. And that's the essence. Now there's refinement to that essence, and that Lord Chaitanya gave. But it doesn't mean that because somebody doesn't have what Lord Chaitanya gave, they can't develop, prema, or love of God, or go back to Godhead. So we honor their glorification of the personality of Godhead. They're rendering that service for others. Honor that. That's it.
There are two questions from Sanchari. Guru Maharaj, this is slightly off topic, and if that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that all of the wonderments in the viewable world is but a spark of his splendor. Are we also that spark? How does Krishna see us?
No. Read again. It's the but a spark of his splendor is not the vibhutis, but the vibhutis are resting on Vishnu, the Paramatma feature. I pervade and support with but a spark of my splendor. That's the Vishnu form, and who has unlimited vibhutis. So are we also Paramatma? I don't think so. No, nor are we vibhutis. We're pretty tiny little things. We're parts and parcels. We're angsas of the vibhu, parts of the whole. That's nice.
So her second question is, also in today's class, you had said that we cannot know the unlimited through our limited senses. When you were speaking, I was thinking of Mother Vishakha's book, where she writes about how one needs to have faith to gain knowledge,
Yeah.
even though that seems like such a twist of the normal process. I think this ties in with my previous question in understanding how Krishna sees us and adding on how his mercy works in our lives. I'm also connecting back to what you said about the sun always shining. How do we understand the process of the deepening of our faith, reflecting upon but not restricting our growth?
Not restricting our
Growth.
That's a very complicated, very involved question. How do we, aside from all the background, how do we increase our faith without restricting our growth. That's the punchline at the end. Increase faith without constricting or restricting growth.
How do we understand the process of deepening our faith? But not
understand the
restricting?
process of deepening our faith without restricting. So I don't see that they're in conflict. Do you see they're in conflict? Increasing faith and expanding or deepening our growth? Or deepening our faith and whatever the adjective is. I don't see the conflict.
How could it be that the first sentence where it said, "We are limited and it's impossible to understand Krishna," then our endeavor, if we give up our endeavor,
No, you don't give up your endeavor because we're limited. But the limited cannot know the unlimited. That's what I said. I didn't say the senses can't know the... It's true the senses cannot know the unlimited, but we can't know the unlimited completely because we're limited. We can know something. We can know what's disclosed. And things are disclosed to one who is faithful. So I'm confused by the question. Let's move on.
This is from Amritakeli Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, you mentioned about Muchukunda being in angry mood could not recognize Krishna, his worshipable Lord. It keeps happening with me. Not able to recognize the Lord and his mercy in the form of holy name when I'm being bothered by some externalities. In those times, I chant because I have taken a vow.
Good.
But in that angry or apathetic mood, could you kindly share if I should chant whatever is the mood or do something to change that mood before chanting? And sometimes that mood changes and light goes on as I continue to chant, but at times that mood continues or even worsens throughout my japa.
Chant anyways, because it's purifying. Have faith that you'll become purified eventually.
This question is from Amara Mataji. At my level, what is the meaning of having a desire to go back to Krishna when I don't feel that urgency? And what is the meaning of...
Wait a minute. No, don't go on to the next one. If you don't have a feeling of urgency, you function from where you are. You have some conviction, whatever that is. It may waver a bit from time to time, but you have some conviction, and you function from that position. And don't beat yourself up because you're not at a high level. You function from the level that you are, and be as consistent as you can. That consistency requires purity. Unsteady becomes steady through purification. So just don't try to go too high. Just go step by step.
The next question is reiterating this, I think. What's the meaning of going back to Krishna at one's level where one doesn't feel the urgency for it?
Well, you won't go unless there's some sense of urgency, so don't worry about it. But by progressing, the sense of urgency will grow, especially when you have some calamity. And when calamity comes, then the sense of urgency spikes. And then the calamity subsides, and then you're okay. Take it easy.
Mataji's next question is also if you can kindly say something about difference between performing duties nicely for Krishna's pleasure and wanting to go back to him?
Well, I've been thinking about that question a little bit lately. Prabhupada's repeating, my Guru Maharaj used to say, don't try to see Krishna, act in such a way Krishna will see you or want to see you. And that's the platform of humble service. At the same time, wanting to come to the stage where one can directly connect with Krishna is an aspect or dimension of advancing in the bhakti process. So, there are different moods and there are different stages and so forth. I would say a general rule of thumb for all practicing devotees is that you put Krishna at the center and don't keep yourself in the center. And it can take different shapes and different features. But like wanting to see Krishna or wanting to please Krishna through service is that Krishna is at the center, not we're at the center. Because one could want to do lots of service and be really caught up in, wanting recognition and fame and adoration for doing this and that and the other service. It just feeds one's egoistic coverings. It can. No, but ultimately Krishna connecting with Krishna in some form or another is great benefit. Okay.
This question is from Sonam Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, I want to know if you can reveal or pinpoint what propels you the most in Lord's service, if you can express in words what that essence, that seed is for you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Bhagavatam, the holy name in Prabhupada. In short. There's a longer version, but that's the short version.
Sanchari has given a clarification.
Uh-oh.
I think my question boils down to, how does Krishna see us?
How does Krishna do what?
See us.
How does Krishna see us?
Yeah, and how do we understand how Krishna sees us, in the sense that sometimes we struggle but Krishna never leaves us? How do we view our devotional endeavor with grace as we progress? To remember that Krishna's mercy is always there, even if we may not feel it in that moment.
She asked these, it's like someone throwing 5 balls at you saying catch. There's multiple faceted questions. I'm sorry, Sanchari. Keep them simpler. How do we understand how Krishna sees us is where it started. Well, like a loving parent sees a child, as one way that Prabhupada puts it. And, but it's not exactly like a loving parent sees a child, because he's transcendental and it passes over many, many lifetimes. So how does Krishna see us? He sees us as his parts and parcels, but then there's also degrees of that. He sees our true spiritual identity. He sees our attachments, and he sees our longings. He sees the whole package, and he's reciprocating, but trying to guide us back to him. He sends his representatives to shed light on his affection for us. And so how does Krishna see us? Krishna sees us how we see him. Although some persons may have their attitude issues, Krishna still doesn't let go or abandon us. And that comes into the second part, I guess, from our side, from what I can recall, because it was a long question. When we're down, how do we keep that sense of being connected? That's your question?
What I understand is, Guru Maharaj, that while I'm going through my downtime, I have struggle and I'm not like always functioning at a 100% level. And we know that Krishna's mercy is there. While accepting the fact that Krishna's mercy is there, how can we understand what Krishna is thinking about me, or how is he seeing me?
How is it what?
How is he viewing me when I'm going through this peaks and valleys? And
Well, that's an unfair question to ask, because I'm not Krishna, so I can't know how Krishna feels. He feels love and feels compassion, but what shape that takes is very much in his hand, not ours. So he's an unlimited person, and I can't say how he feels when we're going through our down position, our down times. I can't say. Loving. We can describe in broad terms, compassionate, wanting to help us, but not interfering, teaching us lessons.
there's one more question.
Just like this mother here and the little boy that keeps pulling things out of that container. And how is she feeling about her little boy? You have to ask her. Patient, understanding the long-term picture. We want him to have nice behavior. We want him to feel happy. So, what's Krishna feeling when we're going through our down times? You have to ask Krishna. And it's different at different times for different people. It's not static. Very dynamic. Go ahead.
This is from Megha Mataji. How do we know which rasas or relationships do we have with the Lord? How long does it take to understand it? And can we have more than one rasa? Example,
Gosh.
parental and madhurya.
No, you can't have. Why would you want to have more than one anyways? We have our eternal relationship with Krishna. Why do you want more than one? One can be full of variety, but it's yours. So be happy. And how long it'll take depends on how you apply yourself to the bhakti process. And how much covering there is between you and that stage. Whew. These questions are very esoteric, and I have difficulty with them. We're going to end. Okay. Anything? Time's up. Sure? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Want to show a picture? Oh, yeah. Yeah.